His resume includes many accomplishments, starting a successful business, serving as an Irving City Councilman and Mayor, and serving as a very successful community volunteer. But one of the things Marvin Randle is proudest of is that he's never spent more than 8 days outside his beloved hometown. We'll talk to him about his career and why he's so proud to call Irving home in this edition of Profile. Marvin, I've heard it said around this town in the years that I've been here that just like folks can't imagine apple pie without ice cream, they can't imagine Irving without Marvin Randle. And I know for myself, I think that's certainly the truth, because all of my knowledge of Irving started with you as mayor. But you were here before then,
Yes.
for a long time. Let's go back to your earliest recollections of growing up right here in Irving.
Cathy, I go back to when Irving was just really a small community. I can remember population-wise had about 600 people, and it was surrounding area was truck farms and just farming community, and then started hustle and bustle into a big city. But it's really really was interesting to see it transform from what it was then to where it is today.
That transformation, too, as we talked, has been something that sort of paralleled your own growth in the city, and I really want to explore how close those parallels were. But I want to stay with the beginning right now, because I want to try to give people an idea of just how small a small town Irving was. You say 650 people. What were the boundaries of the town? If you think now, what was the northmost?
The city limit boundaries, when I can remember, were pretty much the same as what was originally set out, with the railroad track being the boundary on the north side, 6th Street the boundary on the south side. I believe it had extended east as far as Nursery Road, and to the, not Nursery, it was Nursery. Yeah, east was Nursery. And on 6th Street on the west side. I mean, it was back then it was Ohio, and now it's O'Connor Road.
Mm-hmm.
But that was the streets that were the boundaries at the time. So it was a very small, and I lived on the west part of town, so once you passed, I believe it was Iowa Street, I think is what it was now. It's been a long time since they changed the name. But it was Iowa Street, and they changed the name of it to O'Connor.
What was the heart of town at that point? What did, when people thought of coming into Irving, where did they head to?
Well, when I came into Irving, it was primarily with my granddad or my dad, and it was for two purposes. One was either go to the bank or go to the general store and buy baling wire or things for the farm, and that was about the only reasons we ever came to town. We lived out in a little community called Sowers, and we came to the big city, and it was a very exciting place to come. And one of the things that I remember very vividly about coming, especially with my granddad, we would come and stop at Irving drugstore, and he would take and buy a dish of ice cream. We'd set up on the counter, and I mean, I was really a big boy then. I was probably 6, 7, 8 years old.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
And so it was a real treat to come into town and do that.
Now, as you were growing, the city was growing as well, and by the time you got to about 8th grade, there was a momentous occasion.
Well, one of the things that really happened when I got into the 8th grade, the school system split off into a high school and a junior high school. And it was our class at that point, and I believe it was my 7th grade. I was in the 7th grade, and the 7th and 8th grade classes formed Bowie Junior High School. And it was our class that helped pick the Bowie song and the colors and organize Bowie Junior High School. So that was a very exciting time to do that.
Did you have, and it's hard to when you think back on times like this, in 8th grade you're thinking about having a good time, but any inkling then that you knew you wanted to stay in Irving and continue to make those same kinds of contributions to the community, things that would be, you know, long-lasting and far-reaching?
Well, I don't know if I ever had any plans. I can never remember a thought of ever leaving Irving. I mean, it was not even something to be considered. I don't ever remember ever thinking that from my very youngest time. Still don't. I mean, if somebody say, well, won't you move out? Hey, Irving's my home. I have no desire to move anywhere else.
I think it's very interesting because in the span of time that you've been here, a lot of times if people live in a small town, they'll want to stay there as long as it's a small town. Or they'll want to get away from it because it's a small town. But you've stayed through all the changes, and as you know, and I'm sure the rest of the show will tell, there have been tremendous changes in this city.
Well, I think it's an attitude a lot. I can see Irving as a small community when I was just a youngster growing up, but I can still see it as a small town. When you're, I guess, a part of it all the time, it doesn't seem to have grown that much. But when I back off and look and see what great strides Irving has made, then I realize the vastness of it. But it's still a small town to me, and people do not get in big circles. Even though you're in a big town, you're still in a small circle. And so it's still a small town to me, but we have a big responsibility to fulfill.
It seems to me, because in the time that I've been here now, and I almost hate to admit that it's been over 20 years, it seems to me that Irving has kept its heart. That while Irving is a very welcoming community, if you want to make a contribution, people will find a way for you to do it. It's kept its heart in the aspect of where the community's been coming from. It's always been a progressive community in my eyes, but it's never lost, I guess I could say it's never lost its focus for being sort of a community that takes care of its own.
Well, we always have, you know, and it's being a suburb of Dallas, it's very difficult to retain your identity. And Irving, I think, has really maintained its identity. We have been self-sufficient, but we've learned to work with and be supportive of Dallas and not be gobbled up by Dallas. And it's a tightrope to walk in that type of situation. But we have been able to maintain our own identity, and it's not been easy sometimes because we really worked hard with Dallas. Not trying to fight Dallas, but trying to work together and let them know that we are one community and we want to be part of the total Metroplex, but yet we're still going to be Irving.
Yeah. That has been your leadership style in the community as well, because, and we'll go back to the early years, but I would like to talk a little bit about your involvement in the community as a businessman, as a family man, as a member of an old church in the community, and then of course your political life. Let's talk a little bit about what prompted you to join the council and then to subsequently run for mayor.
Well, my interest in politics started probably in 1967, 68. I had gotten involved with the Chamber of Commerce a little bit and have gotten involved working on Jim Collins' campaign. He was a U.S. Senator. And there was a lady in town who still lives in town, Gwen Shea, which most everyone knows, and she's Miss Politics. Got me working for Jim Collins and got me interested in politics. And that was my very beginning, and that's what kind of whetted my appetite, so to speak, for politics, and thoroughly enjoyed meeting new people. And I think that was the impetus more than anything else for politics, is meeting new people.
Now, Irving, this was in the early 60s.
Mm-hmm.
What was Irving like then, between 8th grade and then when you graduated from high school and started your business and such? Things really changed.
Well, in 1950, Irving had a population of 2,200 people. it had grown to over 45,000 by 1960.
That's amazing.
So we had a tremendous growth, and being able to see all that growth, farmlands turned into houses, streets gobbled up all of the little places we used to go hunting and fishing, and it has some good and some bad to it, but it's been an exciting thing to watch. The truck farms gave way. You know, Irving was big in truck farming, and I used to go to the Dallas market with stuff my dad grown, and peaches and black-eyed peas, and set at the Dallas market and sell that. And all this was a very good learning experience.
And it sort of laid a foundation too, I'm sure, for the things that you would ultimately do in your own business life. We should talk about that a little bit before we continue. You graduated from school, and during school you had worked in a program that allowed you to pick up a lot of broad-based skills. Could you talk a little about that?
Yeah, when I was in the 11th grade, actually before entering the 11th grade, I was enrolled in a class of DO, which is diversified occupations for the school system, which gives you an opportunity to work a half a day and go to school a half a day. And I was fortunate enough to get a job with a company called Dixie Chrome Products, which is one of the leading manufacturers of office furniture in the area. And another boy and I teamed up together to become a full-time employee. I would work in the morning, he would come work in the afternoon. And I met the people that I later, after graduating from high school, went to work for at this place of business, a man by the name of Tom Dyatt and a man by the name of Bob Beavers. And the two of them gave me a lot of help in my development of business styles, techniques, and how to deal with customers. And I worked for them for about 7 or 8 years before I went into business for myself, and basically formed my entire manners of business through their leadership.
One of the things that's real intriguing to me is how much you worked. Because you said you went in the morning and then your friend went in the afternoon, but then you always went back after school.
Yes, I was an apprentice upholsterer, professionally was what I was supposed to be learning. But in the afternoon, I'd go back, and then I was free then to do anything I wanted to, or anything they had to do. And I would work in the shipping department, I'd work in the assembly lines, I worked in the tabletop department making tables, and that's where I first learned how to do countertops, was making tabletops in Dixie Chrome Products. And we would work a lot of times till midnight if we had a lot of big orders to get out. So it was a nice foundation.
And a lot to do. But that's a good thing. And it's interesting, too, to note that although both your grandfather and your father had been farmers, and I don't know if this was something that was a conscious decision on your part or what, you decided not to become a farmer. Was it because you saw that things were changing, or because you were just interested in doing something different?
Well, I never even considered being a farmer because that wasn't going to be what was going to be happening here, because you could see already that Irving was growing at such a tremendous pace, and there were so many more opportunities as a young man other than farming. Plus, you had to buy a farm, and I didn't have any money to buy a farm with, so I was just trying to make a living. And because I got married right out of high school and had children real fast, and which has been tremendously important to me is my family. Mm-hmm. And so I had to make a living for them, and I just followed more what was necessary to do than to have a plan.
Well, sometimes watching the circumstances and watching things around you and knowing what an opportunity is a plan.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I think most of them, if we plan something, we don't really follow it a lot anyway, and especially later on in life, we move in another direction because of our desires. And I think I got the chance to follow mine to start with. So, it was a lot of fun to do that.
Yeah. And I know it's made a difference, not just for your family, but also for the community. So you've got a business that you started, and Irving was starting to grow a lot of businesses. and you're having your own population explosion, and Irving's having its own population explosion, if you'll allow me that.
Well, that's pretty much exactly right.
Yeah.
You know, I started my family in 1957, 58, and Irving really started booming about that time as well. But we had 4 children, all which have become very successful and very involved in Irving. You know, bought our home right away when we first got married, and just really dug in. I mean, Irving, like I say, it was never a thought to move away or do anything else, and we pretty well contained all of our efforts here. We was highly involved in the church, and which is something that has been very important to me, has been my church life.
And when you say involved in the church, I mean, you mean down to helping to build it.
Yes.
Actually, talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, Oakview Baptist Church has been very special to me. We, I guess I must have started to Oakview when I was in the 10th grade, and it was just a very little small building, and been there ever since. And we've, there was a lot of us teenagers at that time that actually did the work on building buildings, because we built them ourselves. We had a building that the walls was changed so many times you could go and snap your fingers and the wall was move around inside the building almost.
Oh my goodness.
But we really had a good time, you know, working together, and all my kids grew up in Oakview, and all 4 of them got married at Oakview. So it's been a very important part of my life. And I also credit Oakview Baptist Church, and the mixing with people was a broad education for me, as well as going to church. That's where I learned to speak in public. That's where I learned to have a little confidence and deal with all types of problems. Because I'm not saying that people that don't go to church are not good people, but y'all have a common goal, and you're not afraid to venture out on new territory because people are always so supportive of you in church. And I guess that helped me have the confidence to do things that I otherwise wouldn't do, and found out I could do about anything I wanted to if I just go do it. And so I'm really appreciate Oakview and what it's been and meant to me.
Yeah. That's a wonderful thing, and it also, I know, has been very supportive of your family. As you said, your kids grew up in Oakview Baptist Church and probably learned some of the same things that you did there.
Yeah.
So that's really important as well. How did that learned confidence and the ability to meet and speak with people help you out in the political career that you started in the 60s?
Well, I would say that the Oakview Baptist Church people were my biggest supporters at the time I first got involved in politics. And they would tell me what to do, and I used them as a very strong sounding board on different things in politics, because I really trusted the people, and used them for work. Most of my dedicated workers came out of the church. So that's one of the reasons I have a real strong feeling for people that go to church and people that was involved in Oakview. And the same thing happened with other political people I knew in town, in other churches. I think your percentage of voters that there's a larger percent of people that go to church vote than those that don't go to church and vote. So I think that's one of the reasons it makes Irving such a tremendously good town to live in.
Yeah, there are quite a few very strong churches in town, and you can see the movement out of them for things that are happening in the community, whether it's politics or if it's taking care of certain kinds of social things and those kinds of challenges that come up. What kinds of things were going on politically while you were on the council?
Well, I served, got elected to the council in 1971, and what I tried to bring to the council when I first got on the city council was a pulling together that we were a board of directors, that we were not a group of people that were supposed to dictate individually to what was supposed to be done, but we had to work as a group. Different people had different agendas and looked at things differently. A lot of times we had the same goal in mind, but we were taking two different roads to get there. And a lot of times those roads don't seem to be going the same direction. And after we would sit down and really discuss things a lot, I think most of the time we found out that we were all trying to get to the same point. And that's one of the things I tried to do in my political life is bring everybody to a thorough understanding of where we were and what we were trying to do, and let that be our focus point. And I did try to get them off maybe going down their road sometimes, and let's do it, you know, the easy way, so to speak. And I'm not saying my way was always the easy way, but I listened to the professionals. I believed in our city manager. I believe that the biggest responsibility of a city council is to set the budget and put the aspects of people into the government realm, so to speak. And we're not to be hands-on managers every day of the city. And that was one of the things I tried to get our council to do, and I think we did a good job of that. I think we pretty well let the staff run it, and we put the people involved in it.
During your tenure, you worked with someone who was very highly thought of as an important leader in the city. You worked with Jack Huffman, who was city manager at the time.
Yes, ma'am. I had the opportunity to go to Greeley, Colorado when we first got Jack Huffman to come in as our city manager. And Jack's a very strong individual, which was what we needed, you know, and he came in and brought a lot of expertise into our city. And I think we had all the confidence in him, and I think that's what really made it work at that time. Jack and I, when I became mayor, we had a meeting once a week, just the two of us. We have lunch together once a week before the city council meetings. And Jack and I had a real thorough understanding that I would never pull any surprises on him, and he would not ever pull any surprises on me. And we openly talked about our own views about anything and everything that we did. And I think that made a big difference. And then Jack instigated having a meeting with the school board president, the superintendent of schools, and so we would all once a month sit down and have a meeting to see if we could better utilize the facilities. And Jack was a very, very good city manager. And so I've been real pleased to have had the opportunity. And I think we've got a good city manager today. I think Steve McCullough is a super nice individual, and his tutoring came under Jack. And I think so a lot of the ways that Jack had propelled right on through Steve, and I think Steve's doing us a good job. Not quite as heavy-handed as Jack, but he's doing a great job.
And in that period of time, when you're working there with Jack Huffman and with a variety of other people that were on the council with you, there were things going on. Las Colinas was coming into place. Cable, thankfully, I'll have to say, was coming into place, and quite a few other things. How much did the city change in the time that you were on council and then when you were subsequently mayor, and say now? Because the groundwork was certainly laid during that period of time.
Well, Irving has, by virtue of its location, hasn't suffered from being a destination point. Las Colinas and the airport, I think, are the two biggest factors that's made Irving what it is today. And it was, rather than trying to grow a city, I think our job was to more try to how to contain that growth, or how to use that growth in a reasonable manner and make it work. And I think that was our challenge. And it was Jack's challenge. It wasn't going out, and a lot of cities have to go out and try to get new businesses, and ours was how do we provide the service for what we're getting. And this was one of the reasons Jack was such a good, because his background is engineering. And so he really had a feel for transportation, for infrastructure, and that was what Jack's forte was.
And you can certainly see the fruits of the efforts
Yeah.
of all of those people now when you look at how much Irving has grown and the kind of businesses, you can't even say businesses, multinational corporations that call Irving home now. And certainly you and I probably know the very good reasons why they should, but people laying the foundation for that, I would tend to think, is the reason that they've been so attracted here, along with the location thing and all the things that you mentioned.
Well, Irving is a good place to do business. It's a good place to live. It's a friendly atmosphere. When you come into Irving individually, as an individual, as we mentioned kind of earlier in the program, you can become as involved in the community as you want to get involved. And that's one of the things that I think has been a tremendous success for Irving. Is I've seen a lot of people come in with GTE, Exxon, some of the larger corporations, and when they move their headquarters here, and then these people have retired here and stayed here and have lent their expertise and their ability to do charitable events, help the social life of Irving tremendously. People like Lars Anabuski, people like Jennings Smith. I'm just so grateful that they came to Irving and helped make us what we are today. Now that's what's really changed. Irving used to grow from within a lot when I was in my formative years, but we've seen a lot of outside people come in. But the good thing that I see in these people, they became Irvingites first after they came into Irving, and then they have promoted the same atmosphere and the same attitude that Irving has always had. And that's just great.
When you talk about the city and you talk about people that have come here and institutions that have evolved here in the city, I can honestly say that I can feel in the way you talk about Irving, the admiration and the love you have for this city and the people in it. Why do you think that's there?
Well, my whole family's here. Everything I have financially or physically or spiritually has all been right here in Irving. We all started out as just a small speck. City has grown. I've been allowed to grow. Good Lord's been good to me, been good to this city. And I think our growth from the city and personally have pretty much paralleled one another. All my children still live here. It's just got everything in the world I want.
Can't think of any reason to
I
leave.
have no reason to leave. And I'm very fond of it, you know. I'm comfortable. We don't like to be uncomfortable. Sometimes I sit down and I think I might have missed something because I haven't moved and have to start meeting new people or all together in a new community. But I'm so comfortable where I am. And I've had the opportunity to grow, to form a business, to make it as successful as I want to make it by hard work. And Irving has afforded me that opportunity. And I just want to pay it back. Say thank you for a great job it's done.